Hello, everybody. How are you? It is so good to see you. And it is Sunday, February 11th. So that's pretty exciting. It's like spring's going to be here before I'm ready. But what are you going to do? What are you going to do? So, no more catastrophes have happened this week, so we're very happy about that. And we're doing pretty good. The sinks are draining. That's always a good thing. So, I tell you, life is just funny. That's all there is to it. It is just funny, and you smile and get through it because what else are you gonna do? But I got some fun things to show you today, and I'm just putting on my rings because there's my Blossom. There's Maisie and Blossom who've been groomed this week. Blossom, there she is. So they look so good. I'm really pleased with the little gal at the vet who does the grooming. So she does a really good job. I came down here and turned on my heater, my portable heater, and now I'm hot. So hopefully I have turned that off. Let me check. Yes, I think I have. And let me bring my fan just a little closer here. Woo! Yeah, turn that fan. So, hello, everyone. Oh, yes. Do you remember this quilt? I was looking for something to hang up today, and I thought, oh, look at this over here. So, I'm really happy with it. And it's glad it's done. I'll never do another one, but I'm glad that that is done. So I wanted to make sure I showed you. So anyway, okay. Oh, there we go. Now I'll get out of the way. There we go. So I've got some fun things to show you. And because you know what? It's almost Valentine's Day. And y'all can help me think of what to get for Mark because he's gotten me a couple little things and I haven't gotten him anything yet. I got to think about this. All right, I'm going to see who's here and then we're going to get to the fun because I have all kinds of fun things to show you today. And I was hoping to get my it's in my pocket. I was trying to think, where is my cell phone? It's in my pocket. But I was hoping to get my Alaska quilt off the frame, but it hasn't quite happened yet. But the good news is I've got some photos to show you of it. So let me grab these things. Looks like it might, well, no, that picture cleared up good. Let me grab these real quick and put them in the folder so I can show them to you. So, you know what? Okay, let's see. Hopefully, I'll get this right. Here we go. Yes. Oh, it grabbed one, a whole one. And let me see one thing real quick. I tried to make a wee bit of a movie to show you, but I'm not real sure that it actually took. So let me see. Mm-mm. Mm-mm. Oh, here it is. Okay. So it's that one. Well, let me hold it. If you don't mind, I'll hold the phone. Well, how do I? Video. I'll hold it up to the phone. Whoops. Oh, that wasn't very long at all. Here, let's try again. Whoops. Up. if I can get it bright enough. Let me see. Oh, this might, whoops, this might make it worse. Okay, let's see. That's a very little tiny film. So, oh, you found the chocolate heart box that Mark was hiding from you, so you got to open it. You're so cute. Yeah, Mark came home from the grocery store. I said, if you see any Reese's hearts, get some for me. He came home from the grocery store with this big box of them. So he said, well, they had these small packs, but I figured it wasn't enough. I'm like, oh, you are so right. All right, hold on one second, everybody. I think I'm getting these, but I'm real curious to see how my quilting pattern is going to hold up because Mark is not sure. He's like, I'm not sure. So, but I'll get your opinion too. Okay, I'll save this one. Yes, let me see. Hold on one second. Let me save this one. When I realized, I got up this morning and went right to the frame and started working on it because I really wanted to get it off the frame to show you. But then um, Mark and I took a break for some blueberry muffins he made. And I thought, if I've only done half the quilt, I'm not going to be able to finish it in 1 hour because I worked on it for hours yesterday and hours today. And, or no, I guess just, well, 2 hours. So I said, no, it probably has another 4 or 5 hours in it. And I don't know if y'all are aware, but I named it Twilight Lagoon. So let's see. Did I get this one? Hold on. Save as. Yes. Well, maybe not. Yep, I did. Okay. All right. So let me real quick, while I've got it up, I'll show you the the progress on the Alaska quilt that I'm calling Twilight Lagoon. And because the colors are just so deep and mysterious. I really like the colors. And most of it, good old Jenny Beyer. So you know how I love Jenny Beyer. Okay, now let me see if I'll get this. Let me go to the folder and pull this up. Okay, so here, oh, this is so cute. I've got to show you this. Here we are, ladies. We're having our little get together today. So here we are. I just need someone to carry my rocking chair out front in the front yard so we can quilt. And you know why they did it in the front yard? Because it was too dark in the house. So, and plus you have a lot more room for this great big old frame. But isn't that I would love to be able to go back in time and go to a quilt bee. Okay, now let me see where I am going. I don't know why that popped up. All right, so here we go. Whoops, okay, bigger. Here is the quilt, and I love that Jenny Beyer border. I think it is marvelous. And so let me move my microphone a moment. Okay, I couldn't get the camera to move right. I don't know if you can see it, but here I've done little waves. And since this is a floral border, I did flowers in the border. But I wanted to stick with the theme. And since this is going to be Twilight Lagoon, what I did, since the quilt is busy, all of these blocks, it's busy. And trying to figure out what color to quilt it was tricky because if I'd had the lighter version, I would have done a cream and it would have worked very good. But in here, having the black, then having the white, then having the blues, what I did was pick a deep blue. Now it looks white on the black. Not well, when I say it looks white, it looks light. But if it were truly white, it would be kind of glowing at you. But what I did is I did a meander that looks like ripples on the water. So now let's go through. Oops, that's that kit that I got, which I love, but I'm not touching it yet. Here, now let me show you up close. See how you can see the quilting? But notice when I pull back, it's not very noticeable. Mark is really worried that that's showing up too much, but I think people won't see it because from back there, you don't really notice it. It's not till you get up close. And like I said, I used a dark blue, but just about anything short of black can kind of, it will show up. And if I had done black thread, I would have had to be changing the thread every 5 minutes. And it black thread would have really shown up badly, I think, on this. So it's a tricky thing trying to figure this out. So there's another shot of the up close of the quilting. And then here it is from a little bit of distance on the quilt frame. Oh, and my Nemo helps me quilt. But, and I might, let me see. I think that was it. Let me see. Yeah, because I first showed you this, which has just simple little waves along this border. And then I like the idea of a soft meandering because there's so much going on. But if you have any suggestions or thoughts, please share them with me. Okay. So that I'm pretty sure that's it. Yep, I've shown you all of them. So now I'll come back to you. And yes, the quilt, we had the quilt hanging in the living room, and it is really what I would call a moody type of quilt because the colors are just so deep. And I don't, it's absolutely gorgeous, I think. And please understand, I'm not trying to brag. I'm just saying I got lucky. I got really lucky. Those were just things I pulled from my stash, but most of them were Jenny Beyer. And you know, that's why I love my Jenny Beyer fabric, which I found out she's not designing anymore. She's gone ahead and retired. I don't blame her, but I'm going to miss her fabric. I tell you. All right, let's see who is here because I've got two things to show you. And I'm very excited because one of them is kind of a break of a 30-year promise to myself. So I'll get ready and show you. So, Marcia, the first person here, I think Valentine's Day is Wednesday night. So, happy Valentine's, everyone. You are all my Valentine because you all have a piece of my heart. So, Pat is here. Hello. Oh, you were married on Valentine's Day the first time. Yeah, I understand that. So Marsha, Jody's here. Yes.
I hate to interrupt,
Uh-huh.
but we need some help with Kiwi.
We need help with who?
Kiwi.
What happened?
She's got her foot tangled completely up and it's cutting off circulation to her leg.
Oh goodness. Everyone.
Can you just pause for a second? And just
Yeah.
Come help.
I'll be back in a moment. Kiwi has an emergency. Okay. Here we go. All right. Let's see.
I've got a little pair of no, those are sharp. Those,
Okay.
Thank you.
Wonder what it
Inside her, she was caught up inside her little house thing, and she was
Okay. Hello. Well, remember what I got through saying we haven't had any emergencies lately? Okay. That was Kiwi. Okay. Kiwi, I made her a flannel bed, but somehow she got her foot caught up in a place, an area of the bed that she has chewed on. So I just cut that bed, got it out of there. But she's fine. She's going to be fine. She's quite upset. But her leg is a little bit swollen, but it did not fully cut off the circulation. So Mark, he's so good. He is so good. I'm so glad he found her. He said she was hanging upside down from that bed, just squawking. But luckily, he had some little rounded tip, little tiny scissors, and we were able to cut the thread off. But I'm sorry that I had to leave you, but it was like, we have an emergency now. So anyway, remember how I said, yeah, Kiwi's going to be fine. In fact, he put her on top of her cage and she had her eyes kind of closed. And I said, she might be going into a little bit of shock. So give her her favorite fruit, put her back inside her cage. Let's keep her quiet and warm.
I think she'll be fine.
And at that moment, she flew around the room. You think she's going to be fine?
She's favoring it. She doesn't want to. She doesn't want to grip with it, but she's standing on it.
Oh, good.
And she fluttered around. I got her in her cage. She's got a blackberry. She's definitely.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Birds get traumatized very easily. Well, you got to see Kiwi, I hope, but not the way I had planned.
Sorry, guys.
Oh, so anyway, but she's going to be fine. I told him to give her one of her blueberries. That's her favorite fruit. And I was hoping that if she gets a special treat and she can stay. I don't know what I'm trying to get this. This is my backrest. Now I'm just a little flustered, everybody, but I'll be okay. All right. Goodness gracious. What a day. You just never know. I'm just not going to worry about that backrest. So I might once in a while lean back and go too far. Okay. All right. Oh my goodness. You used to have an aviary. Oh, but she's going to be fine. We're just going to keep her quiet and still. But the fact that she flew, I think she wanted me to keep holding her because she was so scared. But it was like, I've got to get back downstairs. But he gave her a blackberry, which between that, blackberries, figs, and bananas are her favorite. But she had that fabric wrapped around one toe and around her ankle. And it was a little swollen, but it still was warm and pink. So luckily, she didn't cut it completely. She didn't cut off the circulation completely because a one-legged bird usually doesn't do very well. So when you only have two, you kind of need both of them. Woo, so sorry about that, but interesting. All right. Well, we can still go back to having fun because Kiwi's fine. And actually, the best thing for her right now is just to be calm and quiet. And it looks like I'll be making her a brand new bed today. So I make her a tent bed, like a triangle out of flannel. She loves her bed, but she has to stop chewing on it because that's what happens when you chew on it. You get threads. And that's the one thing about having grown children. You don't worry about those constant crises. And then you get animals, and guess what? So I'm sorry. I hope that didn't upset any of you, but she will be fine. And oh, Mark was so good. He must have heard her fussing and thought, uh-oh. And so he's so cute. He since I had children, he never did. I'm used to crisis, but he gets really worried. And it's one of the reasons I love him because he cares about everything. So anyway, but she's going to be fine. It's all good. So where was I trying to see who was here? Pat, Marcia, Jody. Actually, Barbara, hi, sweetie. I'm relieved. It was something simple that I could fix. It wasn't something we had to rush to an emergency vet. So Debbie's here. Hi. And my Mary and Lisa. Hi, sweetheart. So, it's so good to Charlene Lawson. Hi, darling. It is so good to see. Oh, BB. Oh, hi, BB. I hope the message it was something you retracted, BB, because we love BB here. She's very sweet and very talented. Wonderful, wonderful. Um, she's so good with embroidery, all kinds, and lace making. Oh, talented lady. So anyway, my dog loves oh yeah, because you know why? Part of the heart quilt is laying on the floor. Well, dogs are kind of like cats that way. Oh, I can lay on mama's best thing. So, oh goodness. Echo quilting. You're right, Marcia. Listen to you, girlfriend. So, oh, it's so good to see all of you. So, did you actually get to see Kiwi or just know that Mark was carrying something in his hand? But oh, Mary, I when I lived in Maryland, I had an outdoor aviary with doves. The saddest thing is when I knew I was getting divorced all those years ago, I had to let the birds go because I was moving. I sold the house and I had to move. And they did not want to leave. They're like, no, this is home. This is home. And I kept throwing food out on the ground, but like, you've got to go. You've got to go. So hopefully, eventually, this was so long, 21 years ago. So hopefully they found a new home. But, so anyway, everything is good. That was a first, an emergency right during the show. And I first was going to just shut the show down, but he was like, no, I think you can just come up here and handle it. And actually, he brought everything down for me to do it here. But I felt like I needed to really be able to concentrate on it. So, all right. Valentine's Day is coming up. and I love my holidays. In fact, I was thinking, I keep meaning, and I forget every time, to bring down a Valentine little wall hanging that I made 25 years ago, and I'm going to try very hard to remember, and I'll have to show it to you next week. But the neatest thing about it is we were taught, it was during, I belonged to a quilt guild, and they taught us how to use tiny little beads, seed beads, and make a little scallop border all the way around. So it's a kind of heavy quilt, but I love it. Today's activity is making heart garland, and I think this will be fun. So I last night I cut out a bunch, and let me tell you, I just did my heart shapes freehand. I just took fabric, folded it in half, and cut out the shape because I thought that might give the garland a little bit of a playful look to it. I think that will be fine. I think it'll be fun, I mean. And so I got all different kinds of fabric. Then I went to my um, leftover batting stash and got some scraps because I'm making them slightly padded. So they're slightly padded, stuffed little hearts. And then I got some of my inexpensive red, not enough red ribbon. I have more. I'll find it. But I got red ribbon because what I'm going to do is just sew each heart to the ribbon. And I think that will be cute. And then you can hang it. You can hang it from some kitchen cabinets. You can hang it from uh, in front of on a mantle, anything like that. But I thought I didn't really want a big heavy duty project this year, and I wanted something I could use scraps from. So we'll work on that after we do show and tell. Okay, I think I'm doing pretty good, all things considered. It's so funny. I one time, my daughter was getting ready to graduate from high school. So we added an extension to a deck and we had an above ground pool. We were working on that deck and I caught my finger in the table saw. And you can't even really tell anymore, but it was on this knuckle, and there's a whole bunch of lines in that knuckle. It took 18 stitches to stitch it. I didn't know what condition my finger was in. Luckily it was just in the little flesh. No big deal. But when I came in, I had a towel on my hand. And I told my kids, Mom needs to go to the hospital. I'm okay, but I need to go to the hospital right now. And Becky is going to take care of everything, be really good for her. She said, Mom, when I heard your voice had that unusual calm to it, I knew it was bad. So when I heard Mark and he used that tone, I thought, oh no, oh no. But anyway, bless his soul. All righty. So now we've been talking. So I don't have my heart quilt. I don't have my Alaska quilt to show you, but I will have it next week because I know I'll be able to get it done. And feel free to put comments in and tell me, kind of what you're thinking, whatever. I didn't want any kind of loopy anything. And I thought, I love meanders. I think sometimes we don't use meanders enough because there's something calming about meanders. Oh, yes. Luckily about this finger accident, it was like, that's what I get for being in a hurry, wanting to do a brand new project right before graduation, Oh, yeah. But and luckily it was a really sweet doctor. I said, he was like, well, how do you feel about scars? And I said, well, I have plenty. I had 3 cesareans and gallbladder and all that, and appendectomy. I said, but I did kind of like my hands. So he took a pediatric needle and took the time to very carefully sew it all up. And now you'd never notice. So, and I've even ruptured my Achilles tendon. So I've got a nice big scar on my ankle. I couldn't walk for 6 months. That's another story. That's how Mark and I met. So I'll have to tell you that story. Maybe next week we'll do a little Valentine's story and I'll tell you about that. But I hinted last week that I was thinking about, do I want to do an English paper piecing quilt? And it's just been tugging at me. I mean, 9 years ago, we had a woman teach our local quilt guild about English paper piecing. And at the time, I wasn't interested. And I always made a joke about no hexagons. I'm really not going to do hexagons. I said, life is too short to spend time doing Hexies. And when Lisa and I went to Myrtle Beach Quilt Party, they had a shop that had little tiny paper forms for Hexies. I mean, truly this little. They must have been ½ inch. I mean, unbelievable. And I look at that stuff and go, oh, you've got to be kidding. But I said, no Hexies. I'm not doing all that work for Hexies. And that was about the time that I said, no applique. I don't like handwork. Well, now I love handwork and I love applique. So be careful when you make promises, especially if you make them in front of people who remember what you say. Guess what? Yep, I made this week. I jumped in with both feet to English paper piecing. Look at this. Look at this. So here it is. And guess what? I like it. I really am enjoying this. And I'm using the fabric that I bought myself for Christmas when I went to the retreat in November. I was telling you about Jam Fabrics was there, and that I kept looking at this fabric, and finally I went, go buy it. If a fabric catches your eye, whoops, let me bring my camera down a little. If a fabric catches your eye this much, it means it was meant to be. So here is what I got. Now, normally if you're making a quilt, you would use some lighter and darker shades to give it a wide value. These are all the same tone. If you were to use, except the white maybe, but these are all the same intensity. But you know what? I think it's going to make a wonderful springtime quilt. And I'm going to leave it at that. I think it's enough. I thought, should I get a pale turquoise, a pale orange, a pale yellow? I don't know. I might add it at some point, but for right now, I think they're cute. I added a nice crisp white because the fabric has crisp white in it. And this is how it came out. And I think it's bright and cheery and cute as a button. And it's not showing up on my computer screen exactly true to color. It's really bright and happy. It's not my normal color ranges, so that's kind of cool. So I was watching some YouTube videos and I happened to run across a woman, and honest to goodness now, I don't remember what her video or channel was. I feel awful because as a YouTuber, I need to remember to support fellow YouTubers. We're all out here working hard. And if I run across her site again, and hopefully I will, and I will give you her channel name and her name. But I do remember this. She put me on to a pattern. And the pattern is Yellow Rose Quilt Company. I believe they're in Texas. Yellow Rose Quilt Company. And it's called the Starry Sampler. The Starry Sampler, the pattern itself comes in 3 colorways. And it helps because you can choose the one that you think you might choose the colors for. The woman in the video, I love her colorway. It was like the French general type colors, beautiful. But I knew that if I was going to do this, that I wanted to use that new fabric I bought. So I got the pattern that was bright and bold. Now this pattern, I told you, is from the copyright Yellow Rose Quilt Company. It's called Starry Sampler. If you go to the Yellow Rose Quilt Company, then go to their patterns. And I don't know if it breaks it down to EPP, English paper piecing, or not, but the pattern was $13.99. For English paper piecing, that's inexpensive, but that's because I wanted a PDF, something I could download and print myself. There are 100 pages to this pattern, and I'll show you why. All right, so this block that I did was a bonus block, and it was a really good practice piece. So I went ahead and made it. Then now I have printed out block number 1, and there is block number 1. So it has 12 blocks to it. Here is the bonus block, and that was a really good primer. It had Y seams and everything. But like I told you, Y seams are easy to do if you do them by hand. But the reason it has so many pages is because it comes with all of the templates for the paper piecing. So what I did is I printed most of them out onto cardstock. And that way then I cut them out, and I will show you that. I took my baggies left over from doing the Alaska quilt, and I'm repurposing them. And now here's my block number 1. One of the reasons I wanted to do this is Mark's going to retire sometime, probably in the next year. And we're going to be traveling, I hope. And so I want to learn how to take projects. What kind of things can I do so that we're on the road? I still have something to keep my hands busy. So here is everything I need to make block 1. So here are paper scissors, because I don't mix my metaphors, so to speak. And here are the templates and be very careful. If you hold something like this in your hand and you go to mess with your eyeglasses, be really careful. But what I do is, and I didn't bring up baggie number 2, but I'll be careful. All right. So what I'm going to do is you come in here, and I like to, if you're really good and efficient, you can cut along the line before you remove it totally. But I enjoy cutting. It's kind of fun to me. What I've decided, you have to decide this technique from the beginning. And that is, do you leave the line? Do you cut the line off? Whichever style you do, you must do it for every piece you cut out. Because if you're not uniform, your blocks are not going to fit together right. So I've decided I'm leaving the lines. So what I do, you see here, I've left the line all the way along. But if I were to accidentally leave a little bit of white on part of it that shows, I would come back and nip it off. I make sure it's perfectly cut out on that line. So you just, whatever way you decide, make sure you do it the same for all of these that you cut out. So now I've done the other side. And that's why I love these little nips. They're very easy to use and easy on your hands. With my arthritis, I try not to stick my fingers inside scissor handles anymore. It's too painful for me. So now I've completely cut this piece out. I thought somewhere I saw here. Okay. In the screen, I saw just a little smidgen of white along this edge. So I'm going along there. That's better. So now it's completely clean. And yes, it looks silly to cut off that much, but if I don't start carefully, I'm not going to have them meet properly. So now I've cut this out. And I'm going to use this block 13 to put it in when I'm done with this. But I have a hole punch. So I'm going to come in here with the hole punch. Now, this is kind of a small hole. This is 1/8 of an inch. I might want to get a slightly bigger one because this is almost ridiculous. It borders on ridiculous. But here I go. And so now I've got the hole punched because after I finish sewing the block in place, I can put a pin in to help me lift this out of the fabric because you do have to take the papers out of the fabric. Um, if you had archival paper, maybe you wouldn't have to, but I think it would be an awful stiff. And as you wash it and wash it and wash it, I think it would crumble and bump up, uh, bunch up. But anyway, but I will be taking these out and I'm going to try to be careful enough so that I can reuse them. So I'm going to put this here for now so I don't lose it. In fact, I better put this other one in with it. But it is nice. I love sitting around in the evening with a little something to work with. And I get bored just doing one thing at night. So by doing this, I have a couple little things to keep me busy. So now I'll put this back here. But as you can see, this is a chunk of paperwork. I'm also going to be looking into what kind of container do I want to use that I can keep all of this together. And then if I get ready to go to a doctor's appointment or whatever, or little car trip, I can just grab the block I'm working on and the block directions. It helps me to see where all of these go. Now, let me show you. Now I've done the first step, which is cutting out the paper. You're printing them on cardstock and then cutting them out. Now, some people might not want to use cardstock, but I find I need something very stiff. I've got big hands and I'm not quite the gentlest on things. So I tend to manhandle something I'm working on. So cardstock was what I needed. So let's see. Let me get this bag open. And let me take everything out of here. So I've got my needle and thread that might be caught up in this zipper. Yep, it's caught right in that zipper. So I might have to cut. Oops, I think I've almost got it coming out. Whoops, well, oh, there it is. And I didn't even lose the knot. So what I did is got a fine, sharp applique needle. You could use a straw needle, a Milner's needle, an applique needle, even a between. You just want a very sharp, slender needle because there's one more problem with this process. It can be preparing all of these shapes can become um, a little prissy, but not bad. But um, What was I getting ready to say? Oh, but it is hard on your hands because here's a piece I've already wrapped the fabric around. And what you want to try to do, try to sew only through the fabric on the top of that card. Okay. Now, normally when you're working on this, they will tell you to use a glue stick. Let me see. I've got, here we go. I've got a glue stick. I took up my Elmer's school glue sticks. Huh. Okay. I took those upstairs, and even though they were in the package and I had never opened them, they had dried out. I was very sad, very sad about that. So anyway, um, and I'm using a strong 100% polyester Sew Complete by Superior Threads. I won this as a prize at one of my retreats. This is use top stitch needle 80/20. But I just really like the thread. It's strong polyester, but it's fine in its own way. Okay. And it's got a nice smooth finish. It won't get hung up on things. And then here is my favorite thimble. I love these thimbles because you can drop them in a mug of very hot or lightly bubbling water. And then as soon as you can handle it, put it on your finger and it will mold to the finger so well that you'll walk around the house with it on, not even realizing. Then this time I had this piece. It is a piece of beeswax. It was molded like a large button. But guess what? Little Miss Maisie, the red poodle, decided that beeswax was yummy. So she started chewing on it. Yes, this is English paper piecing. I can't believe I actually have decided to do it. So anyway, so last night I cut out all the pieces. Let me put my needle in a safe place because I'm terrible about losing needles. All right, put this over there. All right, this is my little fabric nippers, but I cut the patterns with my paper nippers. I saved one of each of these shapes, not this shape, but I saved all the others to show you how to prepare your little pieces. And you've got to cut the pieces out, then look at this pattern, and then decide what fabric goes where. So oops, okay, here we go. I just want you to be able to see all of these. So I decided that in the center here, we're going to have this yellow and this turquoise because the center here, you can tell it's kind of bold. So I thought, okay, I'll use my boldest colors. Then for out here, I'm going to use a nice orange. And then for these yellows, I'm going to use the lighter, the calmer yellow. And then I've got the white to put in the center here. So this will go here. And then these large squares are going to be the basket weave turquoise. All right. So now I've got that, but I want to go ahead and show you. Last night when I was working on these, since my Elmer's glue sticks had dried, and I tried rehydrating them, but they still don't quite work right. So, but I'm going to try this glue stick. But you can use Elmer's. I'll tell you what I did. I put this block so I can read it. I don't put it the other way. You'd almost think you should put it this way. But I want to be able to read that because I'm new to this. Now, last night, what I did is I would take the Elmer's and put it along the edge of the fabric and then push it over. The only problem with that is that it takes a while to dry. So let me try this glue stick because I only had the Elmer's glue stick upstairs. Oh, that is nice. It didn't work that way with the Elmer's glue. I had to keep, laying it, pushing it back down until it reaches that point where it grabs. I think I've found the new tool. Luckily, I do have some refills. Oh my goodness, that is great. Okay, but if you don't have it, you can use Elmer's. Just be prepared to keep pushing it down until that adhesion, that moment when the paper is soft enough that it sticks. So, oh, this is great. Now, I put it on the fabric, not the paper. And I don't know if it matters. Different people do it different ways. But I'd like to keep the papers in case I want to reuse them. I also go and I clip that corner so it's not quite so thick. See right here, I'm going to do it again. I don't know what a professional would tell you, but I just do a little clip. I don't clip it too close to this corner. I don't want it to be able to show. So I make sure that the corner is covered still, but I clip the excess off. So now this piece is ready to be put in that pile. Oh, now here's a piece that had come loose. Let me try this glue stick. I'm amazed at this. And this is a good time to also use your applique tools if you'd like. And that can really help. But let's see. Now here is the smaller square. This is fun. I it's so much more fun with this glue stick. This glue stick is, let me find the name, Sew Line. Sew Line. Yep, it's the same as this package of refills. So I'm excited now. This is going to make it super, super easy. And just keep the glue stick closed when you're not using it. Sometimes I'll show you what I do so I don't have to cut off the corners later. Sometimes I'll just go like this and cut off the excess, but I make sure I leave enough that corner gets Gorilla Glue. Oh, you're so cute. You're so cute. But I'm leaving, an eighth of an inch there to cover the corner. But by doing that, here, I'll just trim this like this and trim this like this. By doing that, I don't have to cut the corners later. But I hate when I have a buildup of fabric because at some point, like you say, like Carolyn, Canadian artist knows you got to quilt it, and I just don't want to run through all those bumpy lumps. So let's see what this looks like once I took off that excess. Let's see, because this will be my first side. Oh, wow, nice. And see, look, I'll show you. You still got the corner covered. See how there's extra right there? And so now this last side, I like cutting that diagonal off to get rid of that excess fabric. There you go. Now, one thing I'll have to ask Miss Carol, Canadian artist, is how would you go to add sashing? It says wherever the blocks, like if you put sashing down here, don't glue the bottom seam allowance here. It also says leave about 3/8 of a seam allowance. Notice they're bigger than the 1/4 inch. And that just making sure it will hold on to the paper. So now all of these 4 squares. And so you just look and it'll even tell you the orange squares are piece F. It says make 4. And that's what I did. I made 4. So it's kind of like a puzzle, I think. I don't know, any of you who've done it, do you feel like it's a little bit of a puzzle? But let me see. So now here are the little center blocks. These are the A blocks. And there, block A. And I'll show you that really quickly. But this is, to me, this is kind of fun to do. I like doing these little non-thinking type chores. And what I'm finding is the actual stitching, it might be a little easier with this glue stick, but the actual stitching can be a little tough on your fingers. Oh, I didn't get enough glue on there. Yeah, the glue stick went below the edge of the pen. Let me, there we go. Now, I'm just really happy with this Soline glue. I think it's a little cheaper than some of the more common name brands. But look at this. I mean, it just goes and stays. That's, whoops, that's fabulous. And I forgot to cut my corners. So let me pull this up. Just cut just a little bit because I'm barely over 1/8 of an inch. But see right here, I'm going to cut that down to about 1/8 of an inch. And I think I'll like that better. So now glue that back down. Let me glue this down. And it looked like when they were making the block that sometimes the points have extra fabric left there. They left them hanging. So I guess if that doesn't bother you, sometimes I trim them back just a touch because it just bothered me. So there's a little bit of OCD in me, I tell you. But it just bothered me just a little. All right, so here's the last side. And there you go. Now, another thing I would do too is make sure your fabric is well ironed, because once you glue it down to the paper, it's kind of too late to do a lot of ironing, I would think. I mean, I guess you could still do some, but it would be a little harder to get the crease out. So real quick, all I have left to do are these two, and then I'm going to show you there's two different ways that you can sew these down. I'm going to come here, cut off that long point, but I left it 1/8 of an inch right there. All right, and the rest of these, let me just do a little bit off of here, but the rest of these angles look pretty good. Now I'm going to try something. I'm going to try gluing all sides so I don't have to keep opening it and closing it. Let's see if that works. With sometimes with like the children's glue sticks, it'll dry on the fabric before you can push it down. But this, so far, this is doing really well. So much easier than Elmer's glue. But I sometimes worry that if I show you a new technique, I don't want you to feel like, oh, every time she shows us something, I would have to buy expensive things. So I try to have it so that you can do it yourself without extra money. I'll show you what the glue is like on here. All right. And I went round and round about what project to work on. I went round and round, and I was looking into what if you took a hexagon and you cut it into 4 curving pieces, but it still makes a hexagon. And, I was looking for everything. But see with this, how it'll come back up. Whoops. And so you keep pushing it down until it finally will stay. Because obviously these stay. But I also don't like there's so much water in that glue that I don't, want to make the paper too wet. So, because if you want to save it, you don't want to get the edges all crinkly. So this glue stick, this is, if you can get a Soline, whatever these kind of glue sticks are, I highly recommend it. That's amazing. All right. But the Elmer's glue does work. It's not quite as rapid a stick, a hold. Now here, this side is just a little too much. So I'll come back in here and leave enough that it completely covers the paper. But there we go. So now all my pieces are prepared. And I sit upstairs in front of the TV with my lap desk and I prepare these. And it's easy. So now what I'm going to do is there is a form for how to put these together. And besides this just being a pattern, it also, let me turn it around so you can see it better. It shows how much fabric you'll need, the different blocks, but it also will show you, it gives you general instructions. This is general instructions for any English paper piece block, okay? So it'll go through and tell you how to prepare the fabric, what kind of supplies you need. Then it'll tell you how to start the certain steps. And then it has how do you put the outer pieces together? What do you do to make it easier? Now, I wouldn't put these three together, but maybe, maybe I put this on here first, on this side, then sewed it across here. Then I put these together and put it, pardon me, here first, and then sewed it along that edge. But try the different instructions. Here you go. You see this? So she put all three of those corners together. But read her, whatever style you do. Oh, I meant to bring down one of these. If you have any of those little clips, they are wonderful for holding the blocks together. I've got a hair clip. I don't know if I have one of upstairs. I have those little wonder clips, but I did not want to try to pin the paper pieces together. But you see that she shows the little long messy edges. Now here it looks like she puts tape to hold it together so then she can sew it. So that's how you do a complex corner like that, is just something to hold it together. Now she does a little differently than I do. Let me bring this up and show you. She lays it flat and then stitches it together up here. And she does a beautiful job. You can't see any of her stitches. That is amazing. But I do a way that I learned from watching The Last Homely House with Kate Jackson. And I like Kate Jackson's method better. But we'll talk about that. And then maybe if you have done some of this, you can tell me which way you'd like it. But you see how you try to take something like a chopstick or a skewer and lift up your papers to get it out. And also by having the holes punched on it, you can use, a thick and heavy, like, oh, what is it that you, um, if I were sewing right now, y'all help me with this word. If I were sewing and I'm using this to help the sewing go smoothly under the needle. Stiletto. Thank you, Miss Lisa. Oh, that's wonderful, Miss Lisa. So you could use a stiletto to pop the papers out. But anyway, it takes you all the way through to sandwiching the quilt, doing borders. But what I'm going to need to know is her quilt pattern has sashing and cornerstones and a border. And I've got to figure out, I'm going to just take it one step at a time, but I'm going to need to figure out how to add the sashing on. Do I really want to sew the stashing on by hand? I'm not sure I do. So, but anyway, and like I said again, this came from the Yellow Rose Quilt Company. It's their pattern. Go to their website. I don't know if I told you, but the price was $13.99, which I felt was very fair considering all the information. There are 100 pages to this. Now, what I would do, I didn't want to drain my ink cartridges, so I only printed out a certain number of pages per time because I saved this onto my computer. All right, so now I'm going to show you how I actually put the pieces together. All right, so let me slide some of these out of the way. And see, if you prepare your pieces, put them in a travel baggie, then you can just grab the little picture or the instructions and head out the door and sew it while you're out. All you would need is either beeswax or thread heaven. Don't let your dog eat the beeswax. Your thread, some little little tiny scissors or snippers, and the pattern pieces. So it shows here, I always start a pattern like this in the center. So what I'm going to do is this piece would go right here. That piece would go right there. Then this piece would go beside it, like that. So now what I'm going to do, this is the only thing that I found that was at all fussy, was making sure, get this edge up here absolutely in place. Absolutely. You can kind of feel. And as I told you, I don't do it exactly the way she did, because trying to sew with my arthritis, trying to lay them down here and stitch, whoops, let me move it better, trying to stitch real close to the center, that's very hard on my joints. So let me show you how I do it. Hello, Zahir. So let's see. Let me put it back in place like this. Whoops, get my thread out. Then I wish I had the Wonder Clips. The nicest thing about Wonder Clips is they don't get in your hands way. So now I've got these edges perfectly even. And then I put that little hair clip, whatever I don't want to put pins through all of that paper. That's too thick to put a pin through. I make sure that I keep my thread knotted at the end so that whenever I pick up my needle, I'm ready to go. And if you can, try to start sewing at the most critical joint, which is right up here at the top, okay? Because this is where it's going to meet other pieces that you put on. So I start sewing at the top. And what I'm actually doing is just a little whip stitch. I try not to go through the paper because I do want to save the papers later. But I just come up here and carefully catch both pieces of fabric at the top without the paper in them. If you go through the paper, it's going to hurt your fingers. Now, one of the women I watch says she does 20 stitches to the inch. That may be a little excessive. I found that when I would go back and count, I did about 12 to the inch. And let me show you. Let me see if I can find. Trying to. Oh, here we go. Let's do the yellow. Do you see my stitches? I found that I ended up doing about 12 to the inch, and that was plenty. Plenty. But you just want to make sure you put enough that it's not going to come apart. Okay? Because you don't want to put this much work into it and then have it fall apart. All right, so here I go. And you just, I mean, a whip stitch is the easiest stitch, except maybe a running stitch. The thing that takes the time is making sure you've just got the fabric at the top. So Zahir, what do you do? What kind of hobbies do you have? Let's see. I just stick the needle through the fabric at the top. Now, another little hint. Do not pull too tightly. If you pull too tightly, then you will end up curving. The fabrics will want to curl up. It's not good to curl up the fabric. So you want to pull it snug enough, but not tight. If you do it tightly, it won't lay flat and pretty. And Mark said, when I was showing him as I was doing it, he said, you know what? It's weirdly pretty. He said, I like how flat the fabric is, how all your lines are so straight. You know, everything is even and meets. Now it looks like my stitches are getting a little bit tiny there, but, and the only thing too, the only downside, because I like to give you a fair appraisal of what this is like to do, you do have to kind of look at what you're doing, because if you're watching TV, you've got to know that your stitches are in the right place. So it might be better, an audio book might be just what you need. But you just stitch along the edge. Let me see how far I can get. And then I'm going to show you what it looks like when I open it back up. I don't want to spend too much more time on this because we have a heart garland to finish for Valentine's Day. Okay. So you just, and when you get into it, you kind of get a rhythm into it. Now I'm going to have to see how I do too, because to see if it has any effect on my arthritis. It may be a little difficult. Maybe I have to hold it less firmly. When you're first learning something, you tend to be a little tense, and that might make it a little harder. But okay, let's see. All right. I think just another 2 stitches or so, should be able to open it up and show you then what it looks like. And if you stitch it this way versus the way she did it, what you don't want is you don't want too many stitches to show on the other side. But you know me. I would rather get it done than be so afraid of perfection that you just don't even try it. So, okay. I'm going to do this stitch. Now, normally when you get to the end, what I would do is make a loop before I pull it all the way through, go through the loop with the needle 2 times, and then just tie another knot like this, where you go around and under, tie a knot close to the end. You want to make sure that your knots are big enough that they won't pull through the fabric. All right, are you ready? And the reason you do careful stitching is because these stitches are more vulnerable than normal stitches. Hey, Joso! But there you go. That's pretty nice. And don't worry if the ends don't perfectly match up, because most of the time it's just fabric anyway. Don't worry about that. But my stitches were a little bit tiny, but it does make a very nice and firmly sewn block. Okay. So I would then do 2 more. What I find with this is to do pairs, do 2, then do 2, then 2, then 2, and then just start putting the pairs together. Always trying to sew a straight line when possible, so much easier. Now I'm going to just bury my needle under the fabric in this and put this away. But I had this part this part right here was my Y seam. And this is where it got just a little bit harder. But you may need to put any kind of little plastic cushioning on your fingers, because it sewing and trying to be careful to work around the cardstock can be a little bit tough on your fingers. All right. And once again, here's the back. Now, you might want to know, when do I take out these papers? I would say not until the quilt top is put together. And the reason I say that is because it's going to change the look of this. It's going to become instantly more flimsy. So I would wait until you have sashing around on the side. Then you could take these off. So when every side is put into whatever shape it's supposed to be in, the last thing you do is to pop out the papers. But see, if you take like a skewer And what I would do is kind of come, especially since this was done with the Elmer's glue, is to come and kind of pull back this fabric, and then you can pop out the paper. Okay? So I just wanted to show you that. And as long as you have nice, consistent little stitches, it's going to hold together beautifully. And then when you quilt it, it's even that much more solid. So, but boy, does it give you perfect points. And you have to learn. Make sure, okay? Here's another one. When you go to put this block in this corner, okay, I picked this side, I folded right sides together, I stitched down here, then I flattened it down, and I did like this and stitched it along there. And so just figure out which is the easiest way for you to do each scene. So, and it wasn't that hard, here putting this one on first and then having to try to bend it over, it's a little stiff, but it's not bad. Doing it by hand is the way. And I went with a medium gray, which, as you can see, it doesn't stand out. I would not try to match these threads. I would just go neutral, something your eye will look past. If you choose this color thread, it's going to show here. If you choose this color thread, it's going to show here. A nice medium gray, that's all you need. And you can't even see where most of the thread is on the fabric. That's what I love about gray. It blends in. All right, so now we've done this. Are there any questions that you might have for us doing this? Any kind of question? And I want to thank Zahir too. I worried at first that maybe that person was coming in to disrupt us, but they were very nice. I like that. Thank you very much. All right, so now what I'm going to do is make sure to put these in my project bag. Should go upstairs with me. And I'm going to put all my little pieces. But any questions that you have? But I think it's kind of fun. Jody, have you done this before? And I'm thinking it's kind of fun. And when I go upstairs, I'll get some of my little wonder clips, and that would be good. But I'll put all my stuff back in the bag. And but now you can see it's a perfect traveling companion. Because of the cardstock, each piece is well protected, and it should not skew or, you know, shouldn't be easy to damage. All right. So, but I would definitely, whether you take a larger hole punch or not, I would definitely punch holes in the paper, so you can use a little skewer or something or a stiletto and just pop them right out of there. And once again, here were the colors that I got from Jam Fabrics, and they're just fun. Cheryl! Hi, darling. Oh, you've been doing hand sewing too. It is so, whoops, I forgot to put my beeswax. And I tell you what, and the thing is, I saw her lean her head onto my lap desk and look at it. And I thought, she won't eat that old dirty piece of beeswax. But guess what? So, anyway, but as you can see, these aren't even all the pages. This stopped at 79. I've got 20 more pages of the little pieces. But I'm going to be really careful with them because I'd like to save them. I went on Amazon just to look and say, how much do those little paper templates cost? On Amazon, to get 100 or 200 is like $10. And so I'm thinking I'm going to find a container like you would use for beads and put the little shapes in that protective container so that I can keep using them. So that's what I'm hoping. Anyway, that's what I'm hoping. All right. I don't, I'm trying to think if I have anything new for show and tell. I don't think I do. So what I might do today, since I don't really have much for show and tell, what I think I'm going to do is let's work a little bit more on these hearts, and I'll show you that. And I think I've already shown you how the two other quilt projects, I bought that. I bought this, whoops. Oh, I can't move my chair because of the backrest is right under the wheel. But let's see, hold on. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Debbie. That was a little bit scary, wasn't it? All of a sudden you realize, I really like that little bird. No, I just didn't want her to suffer. What bothered me is once we got the thread off, Mark put her right on top of her cage and she kind of was just closing her eyes. And I thought, oh no, she's going to go into shock. But I'll be glad to get up there and see her. I'm sure he's keeping a good eye out for her. And when I go up, I'm going to give her some banana. I think that'll make her feel better. So, oh man, I really can't move this chair. Well, I'm going to bring the camera down so that you can see how easy it is to make a heart garland. And the older I get, the more I love decorating the house for holidays. It just makes a house a home. And I know some of you, most of you probably feel the same way because um you have done beautiful jobs. You just outshine me in the decorating your home part. So, okay, so here I just cut these out freehanded. I took the fabric and I folded it in half, a piece of fabric, like a rectangle folded in half, and just kind of cut. And just remember to come up and around and do the dip at the last minute. If you make the dip it too big, then it kind of looks weird. Here's a better dip that I did. But now what I do is then take my scraps. You know I love using leftovers. I just take my scrap. I'm going to fold it in half and recreate a little bit smaller. I'm coming in quarter of an inch at least smaller than the original heart. That way, I'll take it and put it, whoops. I thought I was getting smaller, but in some areas I didn't. Let me bring this. I want it smaller so it's not sticking out once you've sewn it. This is a fun thing to do. This is not a be perfect project. I'm sorry. I want to, you know, 3 days it'll be Valentine's Day. I just need to get this made and hanging. So if I wanted it to be a perfect project, I'd have started it in August. So, anyway. And if you don't have flat batting, you could use stuffing. You could sew it all around, leave a little opening, and use stuffing. So, okay, Cheryl Lemon, it is so good to see you. You are doll baby. All right, so now, whoops, that's right. I've got to rethread this machine. Oh, somehow the spool got hung up. Let me see. I'm going to take, yeah, the spool just got a little hung up. So I'm going to take that lid off of there. All right. I'm using a really pretty satiny, I'm sure it's a rayon, and it's a little bit thicker. So it might give my machine just a little bit of trouble. But let me show you the thread I'm using. The real pretty red rayon satiny thread. And I always trim the end of my thread when I'm getting ready to thread, whether it's a sewing machine needle or a hand needle. I trim the thread at an angle because believe it or not, it makes a difference. Look how easy that was. So now I'm just going to do stitches and I'm just going to come around. And this way, when I finish the stitches, I don't have to worry about having batting sticking out and looking terrible. So that's why I trim the batting at least a quarter of an inch smaller on all sides. Okay. So there, that was pretty easy peasy. looks like some of it got a little hung up below, but here's the front anyway. So just trim off these. Then what I'm going to do, because I saw some directions for something like this, and they left a little opening on each side to run it through, that's too much work. Every time you stop and start, that's just a pain. So what I'm going to do is just come in here, and I'm going to do it about 1 inch from the top, because I don't want them to, I want them to hang pretty straight. Now I cut my thread. Now go over to this side, and I'm stitching right where I already stitched. Just 3 or 4 stitches is all you need. Come on. All right. So there you go. And then you'll trim it, but see how now it hangs nice and straight. And if I'm afraid if I put it in the wrong place, it would likely try to twist. But here's a pretty one. Now, while I'm just doing this, if you have any questions for me, and also I would like for you to let me know if you would like to work on the English paper piecing with me. Are you interested? Would anybody be interested in working that actual pattern? You can use your stash. I was not going to buy anything new. But if anybody's interested, let me know and I'll get in contact with you, and then we can kind of. I love working on things with other people at the same time, but I know that people have their own schedules and their own things to do. Now, with this one, I'm going to show you. I love using scraps, piecing things back together. These are almost crumbs, and I'm gonna just show you it doesn't make any difference. You don't have to have a perfect piece of batting. And so, and if you didn't have batting and you had flannel, that would work too. So now just come in and put this over that and trim it up. Here we go. All right, so see that? And it overlaps a little bit. It doesn't matter. This is just a little something fun. All right. And I start on one side of the bottom, because that way you get going with some straight stitches first before you have to go right into a corner. And you just feed it slowly around the corner. And while you're looking at it, while you're sewing, make sure the fabric doesn't move apart too much. Now, these are just little decorations, but the best you can. Keep the batting like from the edge. This one's getting a little close over here, so I'm going to push it back in just a touch. And then try to keep the edges of your fabric a little lined up. If you want to, you can pin. But you know me, I don't want to take that extra time. Oh, I know what I'm doing wrong. Both of my machines have a thread cutter, but the thread cutters are placed a little differently. And my hand has been hitting the wrong edge of the button. All right, so here we go. Now we've got another one. And I think that is so cute. So now, let me finish this one. I didn't quite finish. Let's see. Also, with the rayon thread that I'm using for this, it's on a short, stout little, it's just wound differently than like a dual duty. So I've got it sitting, um, I've got it sitting in the back with no spool on top, because it is feeding from the top. And if I put a spool there, but if you have a little stand that that can fit on the table for those kinds of spools, that helps. Now here, this side, it's very uneven, so I'm just going to trim a little bit. I left a kind of square bottom on these because I didn't know if I was going to turn these inside out or not. And now I've decided, nope. I wish I had pinking shears, because it would be so cute with pinking sheared edges. But I'm left-handed, so left-handed pinking shears were too expensive for me. So here we go. We've got these. We've got this. And I love getting stripes. I love solids. Look at these with the little glitter on them. But, oh, here's another one that's already sewn, a pink. So once I get all of these sewn and on a nice long piece of ribbon, then I can have my instant decoration. So here we go. I think that we are about done. Any Marsha, you are the funniest thing. I just love you. That is so funny. Oh, thank you, Miss Cheryl. I was thinking about, do I want to go back to coloring my hair or do I want to leave it gray? It's definitely aged me. I can tell you that much. But Cheryl, it is so wonderful to see you. I know I've promised that I was going to come up and visit with you, and I haven't done that at all yet. And Mark and I are preparing for our wedding in May, which is coming up faster than I realized. So my daughters the other day said, "Hey, Mom, can we help you plan? Because it's coming soon." So I said I would love that. And I asked my oldest daughter, my other two kids, the officiant we're using was our counselor, and she would rather not travel out of town. So I'm going to get married with my daughter who lives here, Becky, and her kids. It's just going to be quiet and small. And then we rented a lake house that then the other kids and their families, all of us will be there at once. So I asked my daughter here, who's going to be at the ceremony, would she give me away? And she was real tickled. So I think that's kind of nice. So Becky's running with, I said, I think we should have cupcakes instead of a cake. And that way people can grab what they want when they want it. But we have somebody who cannot have gluten. They're celiac, so they cannot have gluten. Then we have another person who can't have dairy. She's allergic to the protein in dairy. So it gets complicated, you know. But it's fun to finally get making these plans, and I think it'll be really nice. And I know it would be easier just to go down to the justice of the peace, go down to the courthouse, do it, get it over with. But I want it a little bit special because this, especially a second time around, and I'm 67, I kind of know more of what's going on. And I'm so grateful to have this experience again. So I want to do it right, but not fancy, just right. So anyway, and that's why I said, you know what? I'd rather rent a house instead of do anything fancy. Rent a house and have all the kids because that's what really matters to me most right now. So anyway, that's what we're going to do. All right, everybody. Any other? Oh, thanks, Miss Cheryl. We've been together 20 years. And I said, do you think now it's safe to get married? I think it's going to work. Hello, Miss Sonia. It's so good to see you. Yes. Mark and I are going to actually officially get married. So started out that I got a good lawyer who said, don't marry again, because she got me a really good retirement package from the civil service, all of that. And if I had gotten married right away, I would have lost a lot of benefits. And I'm sorry, but when you get to a certain age, it's about the finances and making sure that you're taken care of. And so I finally said, especially 3 years ago, having kidney cancer and now being well beyond all of that, it was like, I want to get married. I really do want to be married again. I'm an old fashioned girl. So, and he doesn't need it, but It was important for me. But I think after 20 years, we know what we're getting into. So, anyway, well, everybody, it's been so wonderful to see you. Oh, let me give you my email address if anyone wants to send me any pictures for show and tell. I need to get some new ones. Our time to quilt at pwc.com. Send me pictures if you'd like to join our groups IO where we chat and share free patterns. If you want to let me know, hey, I'd like to do this starry sampler English paper piecing with you. And because, we have a Jitsi group, so we can get on there and work together and just chit chat while we're hand sewing. That would be fun. So if you want to do that, let me know and I will get you in the loop. And if you have any questions, if there's anything that you want to learn, don't forget Thursday night. We're really making progress now on our landscapes. So we've got a couple more weeks that we'll be working on that. But then I think we'll be ready to move to our next project, which I've been mulling around in my brain. So I think that is it for today. And I cleaned the whole house yesterday. I've been a busy girl, but it feels good to feel good. So, oh, thank you, Cheryl. Thank you. Give me a little thumbs up and feel free, feel free to subscribe because it means a lot. When I see the little clicker going up, I'm like, yay, I can share with someone. All right, y'all take good care. Kathy Klein, it's so good to see you. And I saw another very good textile talks. And if you type in on your browser, it should take you to Textile Talks. Free, wonderful. Ooh, Mancuso has a March virtual schoolhouse. There are at least 2 classes I would love to take, but I know I'm going to take at least one of them. So check into the Mancuso Quilt Show. I'm very grateful that they've continued these beyond the pandemic because it is so much cheaper and easier for some of us not to have to travel to the quilt show and stay in a hotel and manage all the classes. You can stay home in your pajamas and take a international national standard quilt class. So check them out. All right, everybody, you are the best. Don't forget, Yellow Rose Quilt Company has wonderful English paper piecing patterns, and it's pretty simple to do. All right, take good care. Thank you to all the ones I hadn't seen in a while. And Cheryl, so good to hear from you. Take good care of yourself. Stay warm. Stay snugly safe. Think of the poor people in Iceland. They have 10% of their population without any heat because they rely on geothermal, and the volcano has blocked the geothermal. So be thinking about people around the world who are having a little trouble staying warm. All right, everybody. Goodbye Wednesday. Have a very happy Valentine's. And if you don't have that special someone, treat yourself because you are your own best someone. Take care. Bye bye. See you next week. See you Thursday night. Bye bye, everybody.